All right, in this video, we're going over quadratic equations part 2. All right, so here's your vocab. It is zero of a function. A zero of a function is a value of x for which f of x equals 0. The zeros of a function occur when the function crosses or touches the x-axis. So as you can see here, this quadratic, it goes through the x-axis at looks like 6, 0. Whoops. Looks like it goes through, where's my cursor? At 6, 0. And here it looks like 3, 0. All right, so at 3, this function equals 0. So that's one of your zeros and that's another. So both of these are considered the zero of the function because when you put in the x value, your y value that comes out is 0. Okay? Solve a quadratic equation by factoring. Now, in the last video, we went over factoring on how to factor. All right? So factoring is not that bad. But now, after we factor, what do we use it for? All right? Well, here's how we solve a quadratic equation using factoring. If we were to factor this, okay, x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0. So we're going to factor it down into two parentheses. We know this is going to be x, and this is going to be x. Now it it multiplies to positive 6, adds to negative 5, so that's going to be negative 2 and negative 3. Now, we know that our original function equals 0, and when we factored it, it still equals 0. Well, if the x minus 2 portion here is a 0, 0 times whatever this is going to give us 0. And the same true is here. If the x minus 3 equals 0, then 0 times whatever this is also going to give us 0. So after you factor it, all you do is take your factors individually, set them equal to 0, and solve for x. So add 2, add 2. So x equals 2. Add 3, add 3. So x equals 3. So x equals 2, 3. So x equals 2 and 3 are the solutions to this quadratic equation. And then, of course, graphically, if you remember from the vocab, it's where the function crosses or touches the x-axis. So graphically, real quick, what this would look like, you have, let's see, 1, 2, 3. We know it would go through x equals 2. We know it would go through x equals 3. This is positive, so we know it opens up. So we know that this parabola would look something like that. All right? But you don't have to worry about it graphically right now. All right, so solving by factoring, you factor like we did today in class. Then you take your individual factors, set them equal to 0, and then simply solve for x. All right, so here we solve for x that was 2. Here we solve for x that was 3. So both 2 and 3, okay, not the point 2, 3, but both x equals 2 and x equals 3 solve that quadratic equation, okay? All right, here's another one. You try this one real quick. What are the solutions of the quadratic equation 2x squared plus 7 equals 15? All right, on this one, I wanted to see if y'all knew what to do with the 15 without me telling you first. What you should have done was went ahead and subtracted the 15 from both sides to get 2x squared plus 7x minus 15 equals 0. Because you always want these to equal 0. If they don't equal 0, it's much harder to solve. If you set them equal to 0, so much easier to solve. All right, so let's factor this bad boy. Equals 0. We know this has to be 2x and x. Since this is negative, we know we have one of each. This is positive. We know our larger number is positive. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and say the positive is here and the negative's here because 2 times whatever this is probably going to be bigger than this number. All right, now 15. 15 will go 1 and 15 and 3 and 5. That's about it. Well, 2 times 1 is 2, and then with the 15, there's no way we can get down to 7. 2 times 15 is 7. With the 1, 2 times 15 is 30, sorry. With the 1, there's no way we can get down to the 7, so that one's gone. So now 3 and 5. Well, if we look, 2 times 5 is 10, and then minus 3 is 7. So the 5 goes here, because 2 times 5 is 10, and then if you put the 3 here, when you minus 3, you get to 7. Okay, so just to show that partial FOIL, 2x times 5 is 10x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x, which indeed equals 7x. And then negative 3 times 5 equals the negative 15. All right. Oops. All right. And that, of course, was multiplying the last ones. All right. Now, we have our two factors. We have 2x minus 3, and we have x plus 5. Now, remember, we're going to take each of these individually and set them equal to 0. So this one's easiest. Let's do it first. Minus 5, minus 5. X equals negative 5. This one's 2x minus 3 equals 0. Let's add the 3. So 2x equals 3. Divide off the 2. So x equals 3 halves. So the solutions to this quadratic equation here, let me erase these. The solutions to this quadratic equation are x equals negative 5 and x equals 3 halves. Okay? So that's it for solving quadratic equations by factoring. We went over factoring yesterday, or today actually. We went over factoring in the last video, and we did the work today in class. So now you're just taking that a step further. After you factor, you take both factors individually, set them equal to 0, solve for x. The values you get there are the solutions to the quadratic equation. All right, and again, remember, the solutions to the quadratic equation are also where the graph crosses the x-axis. Okay. All right, so that's pretty much it for solving a quadratic by factoring. Feel free to watch this video as many times as you need to. Make sure you come to class tomorrow ready to work some problems. See you tomorrow.